Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we have John Arsenault with us. Now, John reached out to me 1 or 2 days ago. I think it was yesterday, immediately after I did a podcast about what the mainstream media was pushing in context that the president of the Philippines said. And obviously the media, especially the mainstream, is extremely good at manipulating the status quo and getting their own agendas pushed. Yet what was said, I don't agree with, and I didn't at the time, but I didn't really get an opportunity to do more research than just what the mainstream media said. And now we've got somebody that's going to express a different side of that statement that was made and the context. And hey, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, John. I want to give everybody an open platform. And seriously, when you get those kind of accusations, especially, you need to have both sides of the story. So appreciate you coming on. How the heck are you?
Well, Rex, I'm doing fine. My name is John Arsenault. I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana, and we're in the Gulf Coast area. I've had about 22 years of following President Duterte. I have a background in technology, systems integrator, inventor. I was involved in call center technologies in the Philippines way long ago. And I've been, as a philanthropist, when I was involved in corporate America, I would assist in human rights projects, and not the government NGO type human rights agencies which do nothing to help humans, but advocating rights like the Coconut Rebellion for the Bougainvillean Republic. I was digitally using fax machines and fighting for these people to maintain their independence and not be taken over.
I don't think most of us have heard of that. Sorry to interrupt, but what is that?
Well,
ignorant? I'm ignorant to that. I've never heard of it.
It was known as the Kingdom of Pau Pau. It used to exist north of New Zealand, and now the maps have changed, the land masses have changed. But it was an African island separated by Protestant Christians and Catholic Christians, and they were warring against each other. And they had a self-proclaimed king that was going around the world raising money and stealing the money. He was just jet setting, a member of the UN, typical scamster. And friends of mine in Australia and me and some other people from the UK, we went to bat for these people. And we proved by advocating their independence, they were being taken over by the Brits, and they were trying to make them subdue and just modernize the island and do the typical indigenous takeover with the imperial rule. And by them advocating their own independence, they stood, and rule of law based on human rights gave them their own island. But then in the meantime, we helped them to maintain their independence to a point where now the tribe is unified, and their main crop is coconuts, and they didn't want to create a tourist resort. And it was just a small milestone in my life. It let me really see what the geopolitical scene looked like, and I realized that most NGOs were nothing but sitting at the table of the oligarchs and the UN. And from that point until now, I've been basically focused on the Philippines, because they have 10 million offshore workers, which is a form of human trafficking. There's disparity between the upper class and the lower class. Imperial Manila was a product of the U.S. Filipino invasion. The Philippines was basically, for the last 100 years, a strategic point for the U.S. And the U.S. killed a couple of million Filipinos when they took over the island. So my city, we have parishes here in Louisiana. So our city was the first city to prosecute a pedophile priest by the name of Father Gilbert Gauthier in 1983. And I was involved in that case. And, our city, ironically, our flag for our area, our region, is the Acadiana region. Now that goes back to the Acadians, okay, Acacia record goes way back. So General Lafayette, Napoleon, the Louisiana Purchase was spearheaded from my area. So our area is pretty much the proxy and the female Illuminati coven for the deep state. And, you know, our flag is the same flag of the Philippines. The symbology of the Philippines flag shows their imperial seal and beholding nature to the United States. And the flag of our area has the Three Crown Corporation symbology on it. So, you know, our city is the highest number per capita for certified public accountants for the drilling industry, the call-out group. So the petrodollar is very strong. We're the Kuwait of the United States. So I find myself involved in this political campaign. I was following this man, Duterte, as the mayor of Davao for 20 years. And, you know, I've been off and on a novice in broadcasting, alternative broadcasting. And I've always had a...
you sound advanced right now.
Well, I've always had a shit stirring pot mentality because I'm an agitator.
I like that.
I get down to the basics, you know, all of these talking heads that are selling books, you know, all these ego driven kites that are flying around trying to get attention. You know, I always bring people back to that Hegelian dialectic. When are we going to start advocating connecting the human to the human experience, you know, so we can all just reason together and not be so damn beholden to these systems that keep us under control. Well, this man, Duterte, became the mayor of a city that was the fourth most dangerous city in the world. And then over 20 years, he established the city to be the safest city, number 4 ranked in the world. And he's a tribal type, gut-driven person. He curses. He has passion for life. He called Obama basically a SOB. He called the Pope an SOB. And he told, as a public declaration, he said his country will not be beholden to the oligarchy or imperialism. So he's fashioning the archipelagos known as the Philippines into a federalist state because his desire is to give all of the tribal regions their own independence. So the Philippines in the near future will become many different countries like the African continent. And ironically enough, most people in Western culture think Africa is a country. So, you know, we're dealing with knowledge, we're dealing with biased media, we're dealing with a central bank located in a country called the Philippines, and narco-political issues going into the church, the murder of Ferdinand Marcos, which is, you know, he established rule of law under martial law in 1972, and he was killed in 1986 by an uprising that was fashioned by the Communist Party and the Liberal Party. So, you know, the footprint of the U.S. and you know, over the years, I'll tell you how the U.S. has meddled in the lives of Filipinos. They took over the country 100 years ago. Okay, they created Imperial Manila, the Christian example in Asia for Western culture. All right.
Killing people in the disguise of Christianity.
There you go. There you go. So here we are. We've got a whole country that was sovereign unto itself with no Godhead, no monotheism, whatever. A very rich culture dealing with metaphysics and unity consciousness based on life itself. These people could sew clothes out of gold. Okay, their talent and their friendship and their resources they're part of the global trade when the Silk Road existed back when. So anyway, we have the takeover of the Philippines 100 years ago. And then, you know, like in the 1940s, the U.S. could not industrialize the Philippines because the Philippines was seeking its own independence. So what they did, they staged an invasion from Japan. Japan came into the Philippines in the 40s, occupied Manila and certain regions around Manila, Quezon City, different areas. And then the U.S. was there as an Army Corps of Engineers trying to rebuild the infrastructure from the damage they created. They were working with the Red Cross and watching the theater of war in the occupied Philippines by Japan, which was the bad guy, funded by the oligarchs, of course. So at the last minute, they staged a ceasefire and that the Japanese would leave the occupied area. And at the last minute, half of the city was destroyed. Oh my God. Okay, they had 4,000 prisoners of war, American servicemen, encamped in this area of Manila. So what the Western media did, as you remember the war stories, our troops are going through and seeking the enemy. They're hiding in holes and trenches. You know, they would always stylize documentary version information that would basically make the people of America and the UK think, man, we're doing a good job in this war. We're helping people, these poor Filipinos. Well, here we are. The American troops come in. This cavalry comes in and saves the day. And there you are. They develop psychologically a Western mindset beholding to the American troops. We have Clark Air Force Base there. We have many different naval installations there. And all of a sudden, 2016, here comes President Duterte. Overwhelmingly elected by the people. I was part of the campaign. Facebook has 6 million Duterte supporters occupying Facebook, always following, promoting, supporting the president. Well, he's representing the people. He's not representing the foreign interests that used to have a strong chokehold on the Philippines. So the truth comes out to the people slowly, and now we're many different cases. We have like the term extrajudicial killing, the 6,000, 7,000 victims, okay? You have all of these human rights councils, the International Criminal Court, all of these bleeding hearts that come out and say he's killing people and his war on drugs. Well, guess what? The previous administration, the Aquino administration, was beholden to the oligarchs and narco-political drug trafficking and stealing from their own people, land grabbing. You got 7,000 islands involved here. So here's Duterte instituting rule of law. And by the way, he's a successful prosecuting attorney, all right? And he's known for just dealing with the problem himself. So he's being accused, and about a year ago, I went viral. I did a Facebook Live that was a recorded video that was Duterte, a man of no bullshit. And I explained the cause and effect of a leader like Duterte instituting rule of law. His PNP, the Filipino National Police, were, if they were ever involved in past administrations with a narco bust, drug bust, or apprehending the mafia or something like that, if they were involved in an altercation, many times statistically the police would not even have defense in court. They'd lose their pensions. Sometimes they would be prosecuted because the narco-political infrastructure, which was undergirded and funded by the CIA, there was no support for the law enforcement. So the law enforcement was even corrupt. So here's Duterte cleaning house, establishing rule of law, standards and procedures, and a byproduct of his police going out and seeking this list of drug pushers and manufacturers of methamphetamine. They call it shamu. It became nasty because his police, he told them, look, you go out, if your life is in danger, you shoot to kill. If they have a gun pointed at you, I'm going to stand behind you. I will prosecute and I will defend you, my policeman. So extrajudicial killing was very construed as an evil act by the hands and dictate of this stylized dictator fashioned by Western media. The cause and effect of him instituting rule of law was, okay, well, his police were being fired upon and they were defending themselves. So there's a lot of people dying. But guess what? The drug problem was started to become eradicated. They had over 600,000 drug addicts surrender when he walked into office. They were looking for help. He provided rehabilitation programs. A foreign investor from China built a state-of-the-art rehab facility in record time, in less than 3 months, like a 3,000 bed facility. And Duterte started to do business with China, Russia, and the ASEAN nations, Peru, even Iran. The North Korean dictator, the bad guy, that puppet that they try to make look so bad. He even basically publicly said, Mr. Duterte, I'm proud of you for standing against the central bank. Because, if you realize how many countries have been affected by the oligarchy, by the monarchy, by the church, by all of these land grabs and regime changes, this guy Duterte, a real man, a father, a mayor, a prosecuting attorney, he's just an honorable man. He says, I don't need this job. I'm doing it because I can. And you elected me, so let's change this country. He wants to protect the children, and he wants to guarantee the people of the Philippines that the next generation will not be infested with oligarchy. Now, the term oligarchy is covering Illuminati, cabal, central bankers, the West, the monarchy, any foreign invasion in a sovereign country to control that country's people. So Duterte is misrepresented by the Western media that's heavily vested, even in the current U.S. administration. We're looking at Donald Trump reaching to President Duterte and casually saying, man, I don't like what you're doing, But we're watching the fruits of what Trump does behold into the oligarchy and the Zionists. So,
Can I jump in real quick, John? Because you're hitting on a lot of points, and I want to ask a question that's pertaining to what you're just talking about. Because, everything you're saying sounds really good if you want law and order. I mean, what you're saying makes great sense. And when you hear about people that get hooked on methamphetamines, I knew people in high school and out of high school for a couple of years that were on crank, meth, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that stuff's like, it will eat a hole in a pipe for cleaning your bathroom pipes in the sink. It'll eat a hole in that pipe, let alone people putting it in their brain. I mean, it's insane.
Mm-hmm.
But why in the world people are going to ask why? Because let's say, I mean, there's a lot of women out there that have been abused or raped. I mean, the statistics are alarming. So for a president to say during martial law, which is already, I'm sure people are on edge, to make a comment like that. And I understand what you said off the air about him, just being having a different mindset than a lot of people, but I'll let you explain that. But wouldn't that be one of those things that after he said, he was probably like, I probably shouldn't have said that if he didn't mean it? Because that would probably, that would alienate a lot of women, wouldn't it? I mean, everything you're saying sounds great. I'm just trying to think about that one thing. If you could put into context why that actually happened, it would probably put a lot of people at ease. I hope so.
Well, what I'm going to venture to do is bring you into the mindset of the southern Philippines, the Visayan culture. Visaya is a language, and they're very close to their multi-thousand-year heritage, okay? They speak true to what they speak, and it's the same culture as my city, ironically. The same dietary habits, the same social habits, and the sarcasm is the same. My area when I was a child, and I'm gonna digress from what I'm saying in a minute, but I want to set a standard here to not to justify what he said, because he has made statements when he called the Pope a son of a bitch. He recanted that later, and he says, he turned his head like a child. He says, maybe I need to, not meant call the Pope a son of a bitch, but his passion for what he does, he's in an area where people's heads were cut off, women were raped, they were forced entry, taking stuff out of homes, and it's right before Ramadan. And I mean, the man knows the Muslim culture, the man knows the Christian culture there, and he knows the area. So he's talking to law enforcement and military in a gathering, in a personal setting, and he's got an international news camera on his life. Okay, so in my area, when I was a young man, we had a lot of people, a lot of boys that were molested by a priest, and I've got personal experience with this. If you mentioned it to your parents would beat you because they had respect for the priest. They didn't even know that you were telling the truth. It was just an automatic response in our culture to hide that. And it's part of the downfall of society not having a morally based fiber. So in the southern region of the Philippines, you have people that respond from a gut instinct. Their gut is not, they have morals. Okay. Now, you got Ramadan here. You've got the holy season. There's a lot of things happening that are against the grain. And then you've got the fact that people have died and it was a massacre all over the region. So he's there, the cavalry's there, and he's trying to calm the nerves of everyone. And his troops are taking it personal because these are their countrymen. Okay. And he's saying, listen, he says, we are the law. And I'm going to take full responsibility for everything that happens here. And, these oppressors, this so-said ISIS, Daesh, was raping women and forcing their way into the lives of people, They killed the police chief. They cut his head off on a YouTube video. They raped women, killed them. And he's saying, look, we'll take the law into our own hands and we're just going to do what we have to do. And he made some statements relating to the atrocities that are happening there, just like my culture would do in the 1970s and 80s in response to me or someone that was raped by a priest or molested by a priest. They would say in their own cognitive dissonance, they would say, yeah, go ahead, go back to church and get raped again. It's sarcasm, but it's their way of dealing with it in the pressure of the moment. And he's going to get a lot of backlash from this because the LP in the Philippines is going to eat it up. The human rights agencies are going to eat it up. But from an interpretation, yes, I'm pissed that he said it because all the worldwide adversity he faces just because of what he's doing as a leader, you're facing the oppressors and standing for rule of law and representing ethics. It's questionable. I wouldn't have said it, but he did. And it was in a context of their culture and their language. And no, his troops are not supported to rape. And they will not, because they're honorable people. They're there to serve. And, they have a loyalty to their leader and their people based and predicated on establishing a free country, not beholden to these powers. They want to see the people of the Philippines free to express their life and have longevity and not be beholden to these forms of slavery and oppression. So, you can tell by the images. If you search social media, you'll see the public embracing the troops and the SWAT teams from the Filipino National Police taking selfies and smiling. It's just a breath of fresh air for them to have these law-abiding forces there to eradicate the problem. And now, ironically enough, the terrorist group is trying to talk ceasefire, and they're trying to, because they know they're going to be eradicated, and they know they're going to have more munitions, more heavy equipment coming. Malaysia's dedicating troops to the area. Russia's stepping up to the plate. And, it's a statement he made. I'll apologize for him, but I know his style. There was an Australian woman that worked in a female prison in Davao, in his area, in the 80s, and she was raped and killed. And his style was, if something happened in the city at night, he would leave in his pajamas in the rain and go and deal with it. He's a hands-on guy. Well, in the news, he speaks broken English and Visaya and some Tagalog. He was interviewed in the news, and they asked him, what did you see when you came to the scene? She was naked, raped, dead, exposed. When he was talking to the reporter, he said, I showed up after the incident, and she was as beautiful as an American actress, and I wish I could have been here first to cover her dignity. Now, the ABC News in Australia, they twisted everything he said, and they said that he openly said that he wished he would have been the first one to rape her. The language and the interpretation of the language and the way they communicate is so misconstrued by foreign media. They try to use it against him all the time. And this is going to be a hard one for him to bounce back from, because the interpretation does lend to what the public interpretation is of what he said. But, he wasn't given a green light for his troops to rape. I mean, these guys they're like me and you. Okay, if me and you were empowered to work in a force to eradicate evil, we would do it for the children and the women's sake, and they're dealing with trauma. And in a joke, he said it, but the joke was on the oppressor, because they were basically standing in their honor and their dedication to eradicate the problem. So it was a morale booster, but I'm still looking for, I've got someone I'm going to talk to tomorrow to interpret exactly what the words are in English, because Yahoo News didn't do too much good to explain exactly what he said. They speak about the interpretation in generalities, but the closest interpretation I can get to what he really said is leaning towards what I'm explaining to you. It's a morale booster. It was candid with a smile on their face to say, look, we got to do this. It's sad that all this happened, but they felt they had the right to do it. Well, we have the right to do it also, but we're not going to do it. He's sarcastically making a statement to Muslim rebels that are fighting to establish a Sharia law stylized government in a city that is dominant Muslim, 200,000 members, but also a safe haven for Christians. They were in the city committing atrocities in the name of Allah, which is not prohibitable, and right before Ramadan, which is extremely against the Muslim standards. So, he was being sarcastic towards their modality and their methodology they were justifying what they were doing. These occupiers, they were standing for Allah. And how dare you come? No one will come against us. We'll kill you. I'll kill you. And he's like, no, man, you're not going to kill anyone because we're here now. So it's a hard subject for me to talk about, because I know he said it, but it's not really what people would interpret it to be. But if you look at the responses on the Yahoo news piece, people are ignorantly not even addressing the reality in the Philippines, because they won't do the background stories. They won't look into what's really happening. This guy's prosecuting career politicians based on their ties to narco-political infrastructure in the Philippines. So, these radical groups are funded by the West, and it's a fine line. I mean, I wish he wouldn't have said it. I'm going to apologize to the world for him, but he has to address it also. I mean, it's going to be part of his talking points in the next week, I'm sure.
Well, John, I got to tell you, I mean, the fact you're coming on here, explaining things the way that you are, and even apologizing for him because of because a lot of people are going to take that out of context. That's pretty honorable on your part, I feel. And I appreciate that, because the media does look for things the mainstream media likes to bury people with their words out of context so often. So when I noticed when I uploaded that podcast, and I wasn't even like really that rude. I just said, hey man, what's the deal? And a lot of people know what's going on. You're not from here, da, 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 da. And I even noticed that about a third of the comments, people are saying, Rex, you're an idiot because you don't have the full story. So, okay, I'm okay with that. Let's get the full story. And also at the same time, like we just talked about, and you just said it wasn't the right thing to say in that aspect, but he, was in the heat of the moment, like you said, and some people just if you've got a camera in your face all the time, people say things that they regret. It happens all the time.
Right.
I do it. Jeez, I talk all the time. I said, shit, maybe I shouldn't have said that. So I get it. You know, I mean, emotions can run wild and stuff like that. And if he does come out and say, look, I do not give the troops status to do that kind of stuff. I was just making a point. I think that would make the other side, women feel hopefully a lot better, especially if they're out there. And it would also kind of take away some of the food on his face, essentially, from that term. But, if we could, I think that explained it really good. If you have a little bit more time or more time, I mean, I can keep going here. I would like to really know what it is. You say that he wants to give people freedom, and I want to get into what martial law is and what freedom is, but you read articles out here that say headlines: Trump praises the president of the Philippines for killing 6,000 drug dealers. And then, let's say you read that and you live in Colorado or Washington State, and you're like, well, what do they mean by drugs? And then it's just kind of one of those things that paints a picture of, wow, okay, well, that guy is going out killing people because they do drugs, and it's something that's looked up to. But what is really, I mean, is he going after people that are smoking pot? Is he going after people that are making methamphetamines? I mean, what is it like out there for freedom when you say that?
Well, when you get into the cities that have a functional infrastructure, traffic lights and police stations and libraries, the drug problem is not that persistent. It's not on the street corners like they selling crack here in the U.S. But in the Philippines, you go into the provinces where a lot of the people live. They have these drug lords, these little power grabbing guys that they're fueling their habit. And you know what the daily quest is to feed a habit. I mean, you're going to rape, steal, kill, and destroy. And he turned his police loose when he became president with a mandate. You know who the drug pushers are. I'm here to defend you. When you go to apprehend them and eradicate them as being drug pushers, drug manufacturers, politicians, priests, everyone was involved in this because it was a profitable business. So imagine the police officers saying, okay. I mean, they're already used to just
I'll bet you a lot of them were corrupt, and they probably lost a lot of money from it too, right?
You're damn right. So he had thousands of police officers and police chiefs that were prosecuted. Okay, he reinvented the Filipino National Police. He's got a guy by the name of Bato that he's got a bald head like me, and I mean, this guy, I get intel. I was groomed as a white hat as a young man, and the white hat started getting killed off in the 80s and 90s, and then I just went off on my own. But I have intelligence that comes to me, and I posted a warning that went viral. It got like 1 million views overnight about civil unrest that was going to be instituted by the Liberal Party there, and different targeted areas. And one of the areas was also given to the Filipino National Police Chief and his agency to investigate and try to stop it before it happened. And he didn't look at it as credible because it was coming from a social connection on Facebook. But after the event happened, the people that had the improvised device in a public area in a port, it went off, and it didn't have full impact. It didn't kill as many people as it should have. The police chief was crying on national television saying, man, I wish I would have listened to y'all. I'm sorry. But, they have done so much as a country. They're officers, they're public servants. Okay. The people that work for the government. It used to take 3 months to prosecute, to produce results on a piece of paperwork. Duterte said, you have a mandate. We pay you for 8 hours a day of work. If we catch you on Facebook and you're not serving the people, I'll fire you. And you'd be surprised. The things that used to take 3 months to process, as like passports and work permits and things like this, they started producing results instantly. This is all covered by social media. And these police officers are going out apprehending known drug suspects with the newfound ability to be a policeman, basically celebrating because their co-workers are not taking money from the drug pushers. They're like, wow, we can do our job now. And if they pull a gun on us, if we kill them because they're trying to kill us, we're going to actually go to court and we're going to be represented with a defender. These guys didn't even have public defenders, Rex. But this comes from Duterte's experience as a prosecuting attorney. He's been dealing with the corrupt system all of his political career. And now he's instituting rule of law. And he's not doing it as a dictator. He's doing it as a president, by the people, for the people, based on the Constitution and current standing laws. And he's also facing a house divided in Manila, in the palace. He's got the remnant of many years of presidents that were beholden to the West. And, he's got a challenge every day, but he's doing it. And he's also connecting the dots around the world. He's creating a global force against oligarchy, against the Illuminati. And, the issues that exist that would be declared as human rights violations, well, guess what? It's because of lack of information. And Rex, be honest, most of our subscribers, most of our followers don't even know how to do a Google search to find out the truth about what we're saying anyway. They want to ask us directly, like we have the time to serve everyone that follows us.
Well, I got to jump in on that note real quick. And just I definitely know what you're saying, yet I have noticed that a lot of people leave very constructive comments also. So I think that Leak Project, as far as
on your channel,
yeah,
yeah, on your channel,
intelligent people. They do their research. I get schooled all the time in the comment section, like I did with recent podcasts I've just done. We're talking, like I'm talking to you right now. You listen to a podcast that I did. You are an intelligent person, and you're giving information that I'm going to share with the world. And you're sharing with the world. So Leak Project's got some smart people, though there are those that come out of the woodwork and they're like, I can't Google anything. I don't know how to research. You must just tell me because I am a repeater.
And they're not trolls. They're honestly being sarcastic based on their cognitive dissonance. It's a natural disconnect. It's called normalcy bias. So, I'm very proud to talk to you. I follow every podcast you have, and I'm just impressed at all the level of topics that you cover. And I hope you're finding the same thing that I'm finding. Humanity is ascending to the knowledge of oneself, to be true to thine own self, not to be a damn slave. We can't live our lives being fooled by things like the media. That's television. Look at the whole picture, and look at how many thousands of years we have digressed as humans based on our servitude, multi-generational. I call oligarchy the generational curse. I refer to everything that would be considered Zionism, Kabbalist, Khazarians, banksters, Rothschilds. I call it oligarchs because the definition stands for itself. And my followers are being educated a little bit at a time. They don't follow directions like I would love for them to, but I'm also learning also. I pride myself in being teachable, and I'm learning not to have such a messiah complex, that martyrdom phenomena that happens in people like us. I'm maturing to the point where I can just relax and communicate without trying to grandstand and get on a philosopher's stone. And, the most important thing for me is that people would look at reality and see the choice that we make. There is power in our agreement just to be human. There's power in our agreement to serve each other and care for each other. And, if we're going to follow laws, let's try this one out. Do no harm, and as far as a social action, serve each other. Let's start planting our own food and I loved when you went to that facility. That's amazing. That facility is amazing with the cement barracks and all that stuff. That was amazing. we're combating right now. Right now, the overlords. I mean, there's just a general term to cover. I don't want to talk about reptilians or Anunnaki or anything like this. Let's just deal with overlords. Who's controlling these public figures that we can see? The people that authored eugenics and the people that are trying to say it's humanity's fault that the world is going to shit. Look at these overlords. What are they trying to do? They're trying to terraform this planet and circumvent our ascension to be human. Okay. Now, and from a doctrine standpoint, the Christian King James Bible was given to us as a reverse algorithm for us to embrace superior moral-based lifestyles and ideologies, but never attain them based on that monotheistic, fear-driven component. You know, I'm God, but damn it, if you don't obey me, I'm going to kill you, stupid ass. You know, so
But you have freedom.
Yeah, you have freedom.
For me to kill you if you don't do what I tell you.
You know, and I followed George Carlin for so long, you know, and he's like, you have to obey me and you have to give me your money, but I love you, you know. I mean, I'm just very excited to have the opportunity to communicate. You know, if I get one thing across, so number one, the first line of business I have is to approach this statement that President Duterte made gingerly, because my notoriety in the government of the Philippines is getting up there. I've been contacted by his cabinet, and the main issue I have is the people that support this man. They're doing what the global public does in response to biased media. The social biased media called Facebook and YouTube is making the supporters of Duterte focus on all of the talking points that the government is prosecuting and traversing the quagmire of liberalism and imperialism. They're going to sovereign modalities, and the followers of this president are wasting all of their time dealing with talking points that are none of their business. I mean, keep abreast of the information, but don't spend all your time on Facebook thinking that you're doing some good, posting it to other people just like you, because this Facebook has got people in groups, in subgroups as an algorithm. They're not telling the world that the Philippines has pulled away from oligarchy. The Philippines is the only country in the world that's free, based on a self-proclamation of freedom.
But this is where I need to jump in, because I apologize, but I've got to ask this question. Like, what is freedom, though? I mean, what does that mean? And what does Duterte want? I understand you're saying he wants to break out of these giant oligarchies and have sovereignty, but what does that sovereignty mean for people that are living there? I mean, that's the $1 million question. What is freedom?
Freedom is the ability to live your life as a group of people in this day and age without upsetting the apple cart too damn much, because to be honest, true freedom would be for me and you to just go and stake a claim on a piece of land and be left alone and live our life, you know, but that's not going to happen. That's why we have this millennial reign to deal with. You know, these oligarchs gave us these terms and these time frames like Armageddon. That's a reversed analogy. Our eyes, the scales on our eyes are coming off and our hearts are softening to just be human. You know, let's be human. Let's develop that higher frequency of life where we can have a joyful experience. Duterte wants his people to experience the Philippines as the Philippines in the current construct of geopolitical issues around the world, not beholden to any other country as a subservient nation like most nations are to other nations. He's establishing trade gingerly around the world and circumventing contracts that sell the soul of his people. So his long-term goal is to, when he leaves office, to leave a legacy and an imprint on the Filipino to never choose a lie as a style of government, you know, like a Western lie. Okay, like we all heard Trump say all the right things to make the right people stand up and say, yeah, we're free. You know, it's going to be full disclosure. The deep state's going to disappear. Wait a minute. The guy's fruits, what he did showed us that he's nothing but beholden to the oligarchs. And he's even establishing a NATO Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, why is he doing this? I'm still looking at the Trump. Yeah, you're fired. But I'm still looking at Trump as maybe if the consciousness of America, 330 million Americans, if they came up to the plate and said, wait a minute, dude, you publicly within the last year said you were going to take care of all these problems, even cover 9/11, and you publicly stated you knew more than the generals on the ground in Syria. Okay, well, Mr. Truther, how about telling the truth? Our government for the last 220 years was nothing but the police force for the Crown Corporation. Let's deal with healing the world, and let's stop the wars, and let's start profiting mankind to live, love, and change. Let's all start producing instead of being such good snake eating the tail consumers. So, we're dealing with the Fibonacci sequence that doesn't stop. And if we change our frequency to be beholden to our own damnation, our own slavery, our own ignorance, if we start to enlighten ourselves and we start to learn, Duterte is he's not going to say anything about a church or anything. He's going to deal with his indigenous culture and his ability to be who he is, a Filipino. And he's got a nation to run and take care of the business of his people. But in his long-term goals, he wants the world to be free because he knows what's going on with the world. I mean, look at, you think this comment about the rape of the women for his, in the speech that he said, you think that's questionable? During one of his speeches in the past, this is a throwback statement. He made a statement about Hitler, okay? And I mean, I'm sure you've done some research on Hitler. I mean, that started off pretty controversial as far as the will of the bankers and the Zionists and all that stuff. Hitler gave Germany their independence, and then all of a sudden he turned into a Kabbalist. He turned into an evil guy, whatever. But
I do know this. I'll interject on that note. Most people probably do not know this, but Germany was a bankrupt nation. It took bucket loads of money to buy loaves of bread, and that would change on an hourly basis. And he sets up. Now, I'm not sticking up for him at all. I'm just, most people don't know this. What he did as far as a financial system with Germany was he set something up to where they quit paying offshore interests. He started creating his own monies backed on supplies, status, services, and demand from the people there. Yeah. And then within 10 years, they went from a bankrupt nation to a financial superpower / weaponized superpower as well. So the problem with a nation that has a fiat system that is succumbed to other offshore interests that are privatized, I mean, do I need to say anything else to that, ladies and gentlemen? Or can you put that together by just those few words that I said and realize that it's not a good idea to allow an offshore interest that is privatized, that isn't succumbed to the same rules and regulations that you are and your interests are, and they can do virtually anything they want with a push of a button, is what it boils down to. They can add more zeros to that one by a push of a button now.
Exactly. Now, you see what Duterte is doing in this this Chinese curtain-driven reality we're dealing with. He has a central bank in the Philippines. So what he's doing to offset the central bank, and he's bypassing austerity because the U.S. dollar is going to fail. He's bypassing this austerity by investing his time doing deals with other countries. Now, they're investing in his country, and he's delicately balancing the other countries' investments to make sure that they're not beholden to selling the soul of their citizens to the other countries. So, I mean, his best attribute is psychological warfare against oligarchs. He can stand there in the face of a Kabbalist or a pedophile leader, and he can just look at him in the face. And Obama was at the Essene Nation meeting in 2016, one of Duterte's first foreign visits, and they were standing in a line as leaders of different countries, and Duterte was standing there proud, and just standing there, and Obama was leaning over looking at Duterte. And I said, look at this little boy that's impressed with the statue of a real man. You know, we dealing with a reality that has to change by us breaking contracts with all of the different facets of our slavery and our consumerism. We have to learn to produce results as humans, not from it has to start from a moral fiber, but we have to gingerly balance our moral convictions based on humanity and equality. And that's hard when we're dealing with these, 2,000 years of Christendom and Muslimdom and, all of these fear-driven spiritual agendas. So, I'm a firm believer that because of what Duterte is doing, religion's going to be totally exposed, because I'm every day I speak against religion, but I promote the spirituality of humans, to have a heart and not judge each other. I'm working on, Facebook, I've got close to 17,000 followers, very active timeline. And right now I'm working on my followers to not have them hate the public officials that are being prosecuted now, because they will, man, my God, they will post and say, you need to die, man, you need to forgive these people and don't waste your time with your energy, because there's a system called the judicial system that's dealing with them. Their karma's in their face. Let them go to jail. You do the best thing you need to do. Tell the world about what's going on with your president and your country, and promote your country. Testify. Let's the power of agreement will move mountains. Let's turn this ideology into consciousness, a reality that we can embrace and say, damn it, if this country can do it, we can do it too. So like the US, we're one decision away from looking at Washington and saying, wait a minute, everything y'all have done in our lifetime has enslaved us and lied to us. And you've killed other people in the name of democracy. Okay, let's change this. Stop.
Kill in the name of freedom.
Yeah, all right. Let's go get them. God damn it, you give me a beer. We have to wake up and say, would I desire a foreign occupying force to come into my country and do what I have allowed my country to do to other countries? George Bush Jr. Yeah, if you don't agree with what I'm saying, then you're just a damn terrorist too. You see, what's wrong with America? And I'm dealing with the same thing in the Philippines, because the Filipino people have a Western mindset. We daily say things like, Filipino, unlock your brain. Don't be so narrow-minded. But this president is going to have a challenge to address the issue of why he said that. And I look at him, he's over 70, and he has a lot of childlike character traits. He's a young boy in his heart, but he's a warrior in his statue. He's learning diplomacy with his words. And I believe he's going to make a public apology for the way he said this, and he'll explain it, but there's going to be an all-out attack on this man because of what he said in that video. But I promise you, it's not on the context of the words he said. It's done because of the atrocities that happened, and the reality that his troops and the police and the SWAT forces from Manila faced when they got to that region. He already had the most important political visit of his presidency, which is very young. I mean, he's not a president for a year yet, and he's already talking to Putin. He publicly said, look, and this was caught on tape. He says, I'm here. Thank you for letting me talk to you. He says, but my weapons deal with America was cut off, and, and we really need to purchase some weapons, and I need to get back because of this issue in southern Mindanao. I have to leave, and he's such a forthright, open book. And, I know he's going to make it right. At least your viewers will know that the president of the Philippines did not give the green light for his troops and his police to rape women. It's not going to happen. I mean, they already get enraged when children die because of these drug addicts, and the country is infested with them. They got 7,000 islands, and they actually found a ship that was going from island to island manufacturing this crap. I mean, top of the line meth manufacturing. And, what drug can you go to Walmart and buy the ingredients for and make it in a freaking ice chest or an aquarium? You know, you can watch a video on YouTube and learn how to create meth. You know, so his country is in transition, and he is also, because he's like me and you, Rex. He's a real guy. He's a real man. He's not untouchable. You can talk to him. If you can catch him, he'll give you his time. He's not kissing babies. He's shaking hands and looking at people in the eyes. And he's got faults, you know, and that's what I love about him. He's real. He's not this ivory tower that's untouchable. I mean, look at Trump. That audio came out, you know, just grab him in the push. You know, I mean, what the hell are we dealing with in this country? You know, look at his bankruptcies. I mean, look at his track record. I mean, look at how they predictively programmed him into being president, but also look at his potential as a leader. I mean, he could circumvent his loyalties to the oligarchy and the Illuminati and the bankers and Israel, and he could stand up for America based on his own financial success. His own male prowess could turn him into the answer for this country, but it's going to take the people demanding it, you know. But the stage is set. He made all the promises during his campaign. Okay, make it happen with Pizzagate, Pedogate, all these things. Bring it out in the public. Start talking about it. You know, call Putin and say, look, send some defense people here and surround the White House and help protect me because I'm fixing to expose this deep state. You know, will it happen? I don't know. I can just focus on today. And today I'm thankful for you to give me the chance to talk about this man, Duterte, because Rex, he's the only leader in the world that publicly stood against the people that have been causing the problems in the world for thousands of years. And he's making it happen. So, you know.
Now, there's the martial law that has been discussed in the media out here as well. And I don't know if people really understand what that means in that context, and also the reasoning behind it, because the articles out here say ISIS and ISIL have infiltrated the Philippines. So martial law is declared. And you also brought up something that I think is fascinating that most people probably don't think about. I know some people do, but I really haven't thought about this much until you just brought it up. Also, I didn't know that there was 7,000. I knew there was a ton of them, but I didn't know there's 7,000 islands in the Philippines as a nation. So if you really think about that, and as a drug lord that is, you know, got lots of money and intelligent and wants to take advantage of people, it would be a lot easier in a nation with a chain of islands for that person to get around in, especially with, you know, you see these miniature submarines and stuff like that. And that drug you're talking about, methamphetamines, that stuff is one of the nastiest drugs out there. It's absolutely
exactly.
Now, I don't necessarily, I mean, if somebody wants to do it though, hey man, I can't judge that person. If that person wants to put holes in his brain from putting Drano essentially in his brain, I mean, hey, go ahead. But I guess as a leader, see, that's one of the things that would be difficult for me to be a leader of a nation like that, because I wouldn't want to make that judgment call unless, you know, but if you see kids and people going to school and people that have kids and their lives being affected by that kind of drug and where it hits at home, then yeah, you're probably going to have a different stance and say, no, I'm not going to tolerate that, instead of just having kind of like, oh, okay, just go ahead and do what you want, just leave me alone kind of mindset, because we are all connected at the quantum level. So, I mean, I can see both sides of the fence here. I get it. And you've got to take those positions sometimes when you are a specific leader of nation or of even of a city, if you're a mayor at the county level, whatever. I get it. And you've got to have morals and things to stand for. And if he's cleaning up that nation, and if he's getting rid of that stuff, and if he's still got balance, here's one thing that I didn't ask as well. Well, I'll ask this after. I know I asked like 4 questions. So what is martial law, and where are we going with that? I apologize. I just went on a rant there.
Okay. Martial law. I'm going to go back to Ferdinand Marcos in 1972. He enlisted martial law. The first thing he told his people is, you have to grow your own food. You have to grow your own food. Sounds kind of the right thing to do, right? Well, anyway,
you got my own lawn too.
Yeah. So he told his people in 7,000 islands, you know, game's over. The gig is up. We're not America. We're going to grow our own food because we're famous for having a luscious landscape of food. So then he told the schools, he told all the teachers, you have to start making your children plant gardens during recess. So all of a sudden, there was this cultural revitalization of self-sustainability. Well, Ferdinand Marcos instituted martial law as a direct resistance to what was going on from Western influence in his country, because they were stealing the minerals of his country, mining. And I mean, the Philippines is rich in just about any type of mineral you can find as a resource on this planet. So he built an infrastructure from 1972 to 1986 under martial law, and it gave him the judicial powers to circumvent narco-political issues. The narcotics was back then as it is now, and the political graft, which they call pork barrel, was very inundated. I mean, their provinces, their islands. So martial law gave them the tools as a government to change the country for the people. And then the uprising came. Well, Duterte is using martial law in Mindanao only in that province to instill order. And, you know, he doesn't want to bring martial law to the country, but martial law is gonna fall under this basic tenet. The police and the military have the right to do what they have to do to apprehend and eradicate these terrorists. Okay, ISIS, Daesh, ISIL, whatever, has been there for years. There are radical Muslim groups there. They fall under the auspices and the label and the image of Muslim, with the same flag, the same black flag, the same black uniforms. And you know, it's easy for the CIA, and then you see that's a point when the U.S. invaded the Philippines 100 years ago. The Philippines, there's all these rumors around the world that the Philippines had Yamashuto's gold and probably more wealth than the world has as global debt. You see, so the military basically evacuated the gold from an estimated 50 mines where the gold was hidden. They funded the beginning of Serco, and it went from the hotel network, the red phone network, to, and you can follow this with Abel Danger's broadcast, but this gold funded the CIA. And, you know, ironically, the U.S. has used the wealth of the Philippines and their presence in the Philippines to geopolitically have their way in Asia. So martial law is going to give a legal form of representation. And Rex, I'm pretty sure you're aware of this, but the Talmudic traditions, they make us choose our own suffering and slavery and our own financial disparity. They make us choose this based on our own ignorance, you know, because they have a doctrine. You know, they can rape our children, they can kill us as long as we approve it, you see. So Duterte is bringing a conscious awareness to the country. Hey, we're Filipinos and we're free, so start acting like it. And he's telling the public, you know, I inherited all of these years of fraud and graft and murder and drug trafficking, and we'll do whatever we have to do within the current daily business of the country based on the need to do whatever we have to do. Martial law is just a tool that can be used by any Western stylized government with the Constitution, a corporate government, and it gives the president the ability to bring rule of law and, you know, have a military presence, a curfew, different guidelines that would ensure the public safety and to ensure that commerce would continue and trade. And, you know, so, you know, it's a choice he made, and he had to make it because of what was done. And they took it as an opportune time to create the incident when he was in Russia, because, you know, they did a lot of civil unrest when he was in the ASEAN conference, and when he was in Japan and China, making deals for his country and his people. So, you know, he'll use martial law as a rule of law, a strong arm tactic based on law and order, to bring order to a place that is experiencing civil unrest caused by these insurrections by these terrorist groups. But, they're not ISIS. I mean, me and you both know what ISIS is. It's just a name that the biased media uses because the ultimate goal for the military-industrial complex.
They're real, man.
Yeah, yeah. Assad's a bad dude, man, But I found it ironic that the Yahoo article even referred to Syria, and they're trying to carry these talking points, man. These Kabbalists, these warmongers want to destroy Iran and Syria. That Greater Israel project needs to come to fruition, and we're still dealing with just what does Putin's role in this have to play? What does the leader of China? Are they working with the oligarchs, or are they working within the Chinese curtain that exists to walk out of this beholding relationship to the oligarchs? I believe it's in the people's hands, man. I believe it's in our, if our ignorance has enslaved us by choice, generation after generation, I mean, it's all we know. The only way you're going to get to be somebody is if you go to college and work hard. We used to be a country that would grow our own food. Now we can't live unless we buy food at a store, and there's only 3-day supply of that shit. So, I mean, there's so much we have to do to be aware of our current reality. I mean, we are at a delicate time. We're at a crossroads. You look at that term in the Bible, there's a way into man that is straight and narrow. And we're at a path, okay? In the path of our lives, we can choose the path to the left, which is going to be a hard path. We're going to have to forgive some people. We're going to have to learn some lessons, and we're going to have to get off our ass and work. I mean, we might even have to grow our own food, and we have to face some hard realities because we've been some evil people. Or we can take the path to the right where the liberals are and all these people that are like, well, I want my own special bathroom because I'm a kitty cat. I'm a special gender. I'm a special gender.
That was funny.
And that's the reality we face. And Duterte knows this. Duterte is an avid reader. This man is, I mean, he's on the pulse of what me and you are on. And our hardest reality is we have to make a choice. Do we stand and make choices for ourselves to be, I mean, as it is, you have an audience, you have wisdom, you have a path you're taking. I mean, we're going to find ourselves in the next 6 months probably becoming some leaders, sharing our knowledge and refining our mission for our life. What's our vision and our mission? What are our next 6-month goals? How will it come to fruition? How will we turn from being consumers into being producers? How can we focus on, I mean, instead of looking at the sky and is the earth round or flat, and do aliens exist, and, all of these different talking points, which were given to us predominantly by the oligarchs. What happened to the religion of just being human, coexisting and doing what you could every day to be a good person and serve others and embrace a purpose in life, not just, and look at all these social warriors, all these people hiding behind a profile. Facebook is just like the book at a jail. You're listed, you're tracked, we can't break away from this slavery unless we stop being slaves. We can't get the victimization of our lives changed unless we have victory over the victimization. So at all levels of each one of our lives, we have to start making choices that add value to who the hell we are, and that's why I'm serving this guy, this President Duterte. I live my life like a beggar. I'm outcast, I'm targeted, but I mean, at least I'm doing the greater good. I'm taking the total sum value of my life and I'm opening up my own ego and my own stubbornness. And I'm saying, damn it, John, you better change and you better become a better person right now, because tomorrow you can't be doing the same stupid shit to be ignorant and suffer. Where's the next, how does my attitude develop my altitude as a human? So, I'm glad we're talking, man. I really do enjoy your podcast. You cover a lot of phenomenal topics, and the way you cover them, it's to explore the truth and learn and to create an experience where everyone can benefit. And, I'm hopefully this goes somewhere. You know, like I'm going to share an interesting news piece for you. I've been knowing about this hidden deep state agenda for a long time. These 3 armadas of ships that were headed towards North Korea. Okay, in that rim. Okay, the Philippines exists to the south of North and South Korea. So if the U.S. has been meddling in the Filipinos' business for so long, who is public enemy number 1 to the oligarchy, the bankers, the war machine? Duterte. Now, Duterte has invested 24 hours a day of his life since he became president, traversing the globe, publicly making deals with countries that would benefit them to be their own country and change their own relationship with that central banking system. So why would these 3 armadas of ships be in that region? And even publicly, the Speaker of the House and the press secretary of Trump's administration saying, well, you know, the ships are headed back to Australia. Well, okay, what if their plan was to create civil unrest in the Philippines and then be the cavalry to save the day again? But you see, Duterte has ships from Russia in the ports of, of the Philippines now. So it seems to be who's got the biggest balls and whose cock is swinging the longest right now. So the saber rattling is just biased media, and you know what's going to happen with the U.S. Corp. You know, are we going to wake up and make choices that hold our government accountable? And with this new president doing deals with the devil, damn near, are we going to make him say, you know, dude, you're the Pontus, you're the commander in chief. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to serve us? Or are you going to just blatantly show us your intention? You know, we can't have another war. So I'm even exposing the fact that the U.S. could have been sending these 3 armadas using the staged event called North Korea, which is a drug haven anyway. You know, it's just like Afghanistan as far as drugs are concerned. So what are we going to have as an outcome? This president instituting martial law and publicly, since day one, exposing the oligarchy, the West, the lies, the corruption, extinguishing that flame of ignorance in his own country by saying, look, we're Filipinos and we have to stand for ourselves. So, I mean, what's the outcome going to be? I mean, are we going to find that this guy will apologize for making a statement and then we have another 6 months of biased media and business as usual, and then we find the deep state causing a conflict in Syria that even surpasses the meddling and murder and crap that we've caused for the past 5 or 6 years? Their goal, their end game is extinguishing Iran and the Greater Israel Project, extending all the way to Mount Hermon. And you know what's in Mount Hermon? The gates of hell. Okay, so we have their Antichrist plan. They're bringing, pitting Islam against Christianity. It is the reverse exodus of the Bible happening right now, literally happening right now. So what's the most important thing people can do? Face reality. I mean, it's in our face. So what's our choice? Not be a victim of these lies. And how in the hell can we educate ourselves fast enough to make the choice to, you know, to come together socially and say, look, dude, Mr. Trump, you know, you serve us. Where's your commitment to the people? Hillary should be in jail. You should be applauding these whistleblowers. Okay, what about the vaccines? What about all these doctors dying, exposing holistic medicine? What about so many different topics? We even have the defunding of chemtrails. Okay, wait a minute. What's really happening with Trump and his administration?
Let me check on that. I just because I feel it's important with a different look at that real quick, because, you know, obviously if you get in the position where you are the commander in chief, the president of the United States of America, one of the most powerful / I don't want to say, how do I put this in a very
Tell the truth, man.
There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. There's some great people in the government, some amazing people in the government. And there's also people that you don't know about behind the government controlling the strings. Like, because you made a comment a moment ago, which a lot of people do, and it's a general label that, you know, you even brought up at the beginning, the English language is a language of barriers. And when you say a specific word or label, like when you brought up the word Zionism, I have a friend that lives in Israel that considers himself a Zionist. And he says his definition of a Zionist is somebody that believes in the right for the Jewish people to be in Judea and to have that area out there. And that's not my fight. I mean, I look at the land we're on here in America, and about 100 million Native Americans were slaughtered on this land and scalped, and the most wicked stuff in the world happened here too, around the world. I think virtually all soil is on blood, unfortunately. And so when, you know, are there people out there that have billions of dollars and control things that might consider themselves at some level a Zionist? Possibly. But I also think that there's people that are, you know, good people that are Jewish and good Muslims and good atheists and good. That's the whole thing about putting labels and parameters on things is when we start to do that, then we're going to piss somebody off that might not think that way, that considers themselves that specific ideal or mindset. And it's like, well, man, we live in amazing times. So we, like you said, if we all work together, we have to be very wise on the words that we pick. And that is so important. Because, like, for example, this whole conversation got started on what was said based on the press conference, the president of the Philippines. And so here's what good came out of that. Well, you and me met, and now you're telling me the story of the other side that we don't hear about, because the mainstream media is controlled by 6 corporations, literally, and a couple hundred executives, and they have certain interests. So the fact that something good came out of what was said, in a sense, that now hundreds of thousands of other people are going to listen to this and come up with different ideas and thoughts. Yet at the same time, if that wouldn't have been said, then there wouldn't be all this food on his face, essentially. I'm trying to think of a decent term to use, but you get my point. To where So yeah, I mean, there's everybody has their own interests at heart, yet what are those interests? If we can work in conjunction together, like the Philippines, you know, to tell you what you're telling me, I'm thinking to myself, what in the world is this gentleman going to do to protect himself from factions that have taken out people in very high positions of power because they didn't play ball? I mean, with the technologies that are out there, with the nanotechnologies, you hear about heart attack guns that have been around since the 70s, and satellite weapons, and virtually all sorts of foul play and espionage and sabotage and mind control tactics and all this kind of stuff. What does somebody do to avoid all that?
Well, I believe that, you know, like, let's use the term Zionist. That's popularly used by conspiracy theorists, activists, Christian-based people, and it's used by Jews also, because there's Jews on the streets around the world that protest Zionism. They protest Israel, and if we bring it back to the ground level, why does the country of Palestine not exist on the map anymore? Because the grand scale plan is to use that ideology fostered by what happened because of World War II and Hitler. You know, how are we going to bring ourselves to the present moment of now and say, we're all humans, you're not going to harm me with your ideology. You're not going to harm my way of life, and I'm not going to harm you. And we just all have to start learning, because our brains are screwed. As far as our reality, we have a potential to become really good people as humans, but we better start acting like we're humans. We have to not have such a big footprint of waste and foolishness and stupidity. We can't have the ends justify the means of our ignorance. I mean, look at the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing again and again to obtain different results, hoping that you become successful. I mean, when are we going to learn wisdom based on a human ideology of morality? You know, so I'm learning. I make these terms, and I have a lot of passion in what I do, because I'm trying to wake people up and usually balance my life to focus on my own peace and my own mouth, you know, what I say, because I curse out my followers sometimes. I'll tell my followers, "Well, it's so stupid. I've been telling you all these things, And they'll respond, Sir John, don't take it so personal. You're going to have a heart attack. They love me, but they don't know why. They know I'm telling the truth, but they don't know what I'm saying. So I believe we're magic.
You know what I mean?
I believe that as humans worldwide, we're magically becoming delicious. We're starting to see that we do have some authority. We do have some power in our decisions. But what are these decisions going to be? What are they going to be predicated on? Are we going to base our decisions on our religion, our political values, our wealth, our race? Or are we just going to start basing our decisions and our actions based on our humanity? What is our humanity? That's easy to see. You can see the fruits of all humanity. I mean, it's a quagmire. So, you know, look at what's happening with the deep state and their all-out push to cause a global control grid, a web of control over us, and we've transcended that. I have a philosophy that you know, I feel that the oligarchs have based their science of us as basically my God, I'm losing my train of thought.
Harp's getting you from Alaska.
Well, yeah. I believe the oligarchs have studied us as a carbon-based life form, and we're more plasma-based than we are carbon. We borrow our meat suit from the earth, and you know, with the Schumann resonance way up there, and with CERN really not opening these stargates or whatever the hell they're doing, their little theater of chemtrails and metallics, and I believe they were trying to circumvent our ascension. I believe that our human experience, we're all one. It's like iRobot. If the light goes off, the whole damn thing is shut down. I believe our life force is based on love. And once we find love for each other and acceptance for each other, we're going to resonate a golden age of change. And that's going to mean, you know, we can embrace that as the beginning of humanity. Instead of the Armageddon end of the world, I believe it's the beginning of the world, but it takes our choices. Are we basing our choices on my ability to be myself and not have anybody infringe on my rights to be human and be happy and healthy? Or am I basing my rights on my ideology and my embracing words like Zionist? And, you know, what is my point? Do I want to see people die and hang from the gallows? No, honestly, John wants to find the ability to forgive even the most evil person on this planet, so I can walk my life and not have hatred and judgment in my life. And, you know, because that lends a lot of credibility to being an ignorant human. You know, I'm glad you mentioned the Zionist term. I'm friends with Max Egan, and I have a passion for Gaza and Palestine. And I deal with these ideologies on a regular basis because there are so many Filipinos that live in Israel as offshore workers, and their career is there. They've been there 10, 20 years, and they will attack me. How dare you say that the IMF sprays the houses in Gaza with shit at night? Well, I can prove that they have been doing it for years. They'll empty septic tanks and spray with a snorkel device on top of a truck at dusk. Okay, they take children off the streets. Why are the children throwing rocks anyway? Well, it's a cause and effect. They're occupied, they're oppressed. But when will it stop? When humanity says, look, enough's enough. So, you know, I'm glad we had our conversation. And Rex, I can cover any topic. I'm like an oracle, but I'm just trying to do me and find my sweet spot to where I'm actually able to teach and reach people to be themselves. I want to empower people to be who they're born to be, because it's ironic. We can prove that we have a destiny that's in our genetics. It's manifest destiny, you know, the Christian term. But what are we going to do? Are we going to follow our birthright to be human and our natural propensity to do what our passion is based on our own self-sustainability and our own intermingling daily life with other humans, to coexist and just harmonize and be happy, develop that Mexico mañana, man. We'll take a siesta. Let's do it later. You know, let's get to know each other first. How are we going to take and become friends and make something happen that'll be for the greater good of humanity based on humanity itself? And we got all these power heads out there talking crap. And, you know, like with Trump pushing through the crowd to be up front. you know.
That was
Is,
funny, man.
yeah.
That was funny. He got up there and he's just like, you see almost like the shining light coming off of his blonde hair, and he's getting his. I thought that was kind of funny. I mean, that just reminds me of like something in high school or out of college, or you're at work or something, and you're wanting to get in front of everybody else for the picture. Yeah, I mean, I can see both sides. I gotta admit, man, that was funny stuff there.
Exactly.
And another thing about President Trump, too, is I know that he made a lot of promises that hasn't come into fruition yet. And people are like, when are you going to drain that swamp, man? When are you going to drain the swamp? Well, he picked a lot of battles. And if you remember, I mean, first he's got to deal with the mainstream media attacking him on a regular basis. He's got to deal with the talk show hosts, the late night comedy guys making fun of him on a regular basis. And he also pissed off the alphabet agencies. I mean, he pissed them off big time. So they went after him. And I guess he's in a position where he's like, oh my gosh, man, look at all these enemies I've made. How much can I do at a time here? And, I got to say, as far as Duterte, what he's doing, it's almost as if maybe there's something watching out for him behind the scenes that we don't see. I mean, maybe there's some type of angelic force or something, because seriously, with the technologies that are available today, literally with weaponized technologies, frequency,
he should be dead. He should be dead.
Like and what he's doing, what you're telling me that he is doing, what I'm gathering from you in this conversation. And then I think to myself, okay, he is the ruler of 100 million plus people in the Philippines. And now he has an opportunity, because he's created this structure of, how do I put it? A system of control right now. I mean, he's clamping down, he's digging his feet in, and he's saying, okay, I'm going to do what I feel needs to be done. This is what I'm gathering from you, and I hope I'm close to this, or I hope I'm spot on. But now he can change the education system. He can work out different industries like technologies and biotech and nanotech and all sorts of, not free energy, but alternative energy sources with waters, and ways to offset all of this terraforming that's going on and stuff. Ways like literally they have technologies to offset some of these effects from these nanoparticulates and these nasty chemicals and radiation that's being sprayed in the atmosphere. Just look at the Hutchinson effect. So he could take monies and what he's doing with his bank and literally change the world. And it sounds to me like if there's something watching out for him behind the scenes that's helping him get to that point, man, I hope that he does that kind of stuff. I hope that instead of kids going to a school where they get indoctrinated, where they don't get the opportunity to truly be their own light, and that spark turn into this amazing opportunity of endless opportunities for everybody. And then he could take and set up different industries off. Okay, well, if that kid's really good at science, let's put him into some special classes with science. If that kid's really good at biotech, let's put him over there, or engineers or artists or stuff like that, and really create a renaissance, a true golden age. Because that's one more thing I got to say here real quick. People say, oh, man, the golden age was 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, before the flood or whatever. Was it really the golden age? Because if you look at the supposed manipulation of man, was that the golden age for us, or was that the golden age for the engineers? And like you said, you think they're suppressing us. We have an opportunity right now to be the change, and we're all connected at this quantum level. And what can we do in the physical form?
Right.
Be the change.
Exactly. I'll tell you my spin on this. What's happening? I'll explain who I am from a divine perspective, using the word divine just to pick a word to categorize myself, and I'll also label Duterte for who he is. 9/11 created a paradigm shift in the global consciousness. It was designed as a shock and awe event to justify terrorism and create fear. It failed. We, as a global consciousness, grief is a byproduct of love and service to others. So I believe that the greater percentage of our collective chose service to others, and we started our ascension then. Right now, Duterte is known as the eagle of the South. The United States took the symbology of the eagle away from the Philippines, and they took it as the symbology of the U.S., the eagle. They gave the Philippines a coat of arms, which was a seal, a corporation, a subchapter S of the U.S. So now Duterte is the eagle of the South, and I've got all of these wise Filipinos from around the world contacting me over the past year saying, Sir John, you're like John the Baptist. You're the eagle of the North. So I researched that. And in the condor and the eagle from the Peru, and the Azteca and the Hopi, this golden age, there I'm the eagle of the north. Okay, so I'm the white guy that reminds the white European that says, okay, we have totally disrupted the indigenous cultures of the whole planet. Now it's time for us to learn from them. So we better take time and learn from them. So me and Duterte, ironically, in this paradigm shift of global consciousness, we're on the scene to facilitate change for us to choose to be human, for us to choose to live off the land, develop a moral fiber, and make choices that produce results that have a lasting benefit, you know, where we can all enjoy and our children can enjoy, and we can see ourselves have successful generations in the future without us choosing our own slavery, you know? So I see this happening. The Philippines is well known for inventors. They had a guy in the 80s that invented a machine that ran on water. They have a guy named Doza that's doing it now. You know, I believe, Rex, I believe that everything we have participated with to rape this planet and ruin our habitat, I believe that the economic explosion for us to become productive, because we use currency as a mode of exchange. In fact, look at the term in the Bible. The wealth of the wicked is held up and stored for the just. Now that lends ultimate credibility to the fact that we collateralize the oligarchs. They're using our money. They're using our value traded worldwide on the stock exchanges, you know, symbolized by that bull and horns. So we have to repossess our human value. And that means getting busy. That means living off the land, establishing independence and sovereignty and self-sustainability. So that's profitability. You know, I believe that China and Russia is embracing this Silk Road project as the Renaissance and the road into the Golden Age. I believe that it's going to become an experience for me and you to even exchange our limited lives with even an extended life if we start having a holistic life. I mean, look at the fountain of youth, Rex. What's the fountain of youth but our own urine? You know, how much have we been removed from our natural element as humans? How little do we need to consume to survive? You know, as we ascend, as we transcend this metal-driven, mineral-driven life, I mean, our lives, our life force is not as conducive as it could be if we had a gut that wasn't polluted. That's our second brain. You know, we have to cleanse ourselves. We have to eat right. We have to really start becoming the shamans that we should be. You know, this quest for knowledge. I mean, what's all this knowledge going to do for us but lead us to another thing that we have to research and say, wow, what about the wow factor of just living life and being happy by our choices, telling the government to stop fucking with us? You know,
well, right. And I got to ask this too, and I apologize about interrupting, but I just think this is so important. What is he going to do about the medical system? I mean, is he going to offer healthcare that actually works and not a system that keeps people sick and suppressed, coming back for more medicines and Band-Aids that keep them under a certain physical manipulation, literally, where they stay healthy just enough to function and pay the bills and do their thing? I mean, is he going to eliminate GMOs and aspartame and artificial sweeteners and carcinogens in the food? And here's the most important thing. If you really think about, well, I shouldn't say the most important thing, but something that is just as important to break out of a system that's been controlled by petroleum for over 100 years, is to do something to provide energy that is petroleum based. Because if people didn't have to be succumb to an energy source where they had to pay monies out every single month to get this fuel that's sucked out of the earth, literally the blood of the earth, well, then not only are you helping the planet, but you're helping people be more efficient. And with the healthcare, which people should have the right for that anyway. And then you look at so many different taxes within taxes on taxes on taxes. I mean, what is what does he do with all that kind of stuff? What is the overall archetype like out there in the Philippines when it comes to that? And is he changing, or is he just keeping it the same?
He's attacking the healthcare system to give the elderly free healthcare, and he is instituting a benefit system for what would be considered a Social Security recipient, and he's reforming the tax acts to serve the people, and he's creating investment capabilities for the country to be self-sustaining monetarily. He's slowly transforming everything you just mentioned. And trust me, he will pursue anything that can originate out of the Philippines and be manufactured and given to the world as an alternative energy or a source. I mean, you got 7,000 islands. It's an archipelago. It's surrounded by water. Our Navy has had vessels that ran on water and airplanes that fly on water since the 50s and 40s. So, the technology's there. We just have to see the industrial war machine and the central banking system and the petrodollar and the oil companies. We all have to be beholden to the self-sustainability that we could choose. He's doing everything he can. I mean, the guy went from a third world nation to a first world nation in less than 6 months. Okay. So now he's looking at.
That ain't too bad.
Yeah. He's circumventing austerity because of his retaliation to the West, because they based their monetary system on the petrodollar, big time. So, and I'm making predictions that before the end of the year, the peso of the Philippines will be worth more than the dollar. So, he's got all of this stuff in his business agenda, but, it's as things become public, he's addressing the healthcare system. He's addressing the workforce. He's addressing the slavery of his people you got 10 million people living offshore working for other countries. Saudi Arabia, the Dubai, all the Kuwait, their workforce is Filipinos, man. Offshore work. These people don't work. The people of Saudi Arabia don't work. They don't have jobs. They might have some. They have servants, I'm special. So he's dealing with all of these issues, and the consciousness of his people is what's the most important thing. My goal is to bring all of my followers and my captive audience into a collective where we say, okay, look, the best thing we can do is tell the world about our success as a nation, to be sovereign and choose a leader that serves us. And we did it. Check it out. We had all these problems, but we're doing it. And we're learning why we were victims of all of these circumstances dealing with the West and the banking system. It's actually bringing to the forefront all of the controversial talking points that are going to have to be addressed even by Trump to explain to the American people why America is not what they think it is. I mean, patriotism, God bless America, kill them. I mean, what the hell? 220 years of wars based on land grabs and minerals and money and central banking. I mean, think of the ignorance of our own people. The American people don't know how much blood is on our hands. So, he's doing some things that are, awesome. And he's doing some things that are controversial, even to the Filipino people. But the end result ends up being like his relationship with China. That was so controversial with the Filipino people. They were like, how in the hell can you do this? But out of that exposed the past president making a deal with China to fatten his pockets and screw his own people in exchange for the islands in the South China Sea that were trying to be controlled by the United States. And then Duterte said, look, let's just talk about this, because if we don't talk about it, we're going to end up with a conflict, and it's going to involve the Philippines, China, and the United States. So the U.S., by putting himself as the sovereign leader of the Philippines and saying, let's talk. They reason together. So the Chinese president and Duterte have an open door policy. And I see Putin and the Chinese president and other leaders in the world having a little glimmer of hope, maybe. Look at Putin. I mean, there's a lot of facts there that show that he's probably the richest man in the world. And how? Well, okay, he was an enforcer. Now, if Russia is well known for mafia and all this stuff, and we've got the suspected dealings with Trump and the mafia in Russia. I mean, let's look at the history of the mafia. I mean, there's honor amongst thieves. There's benevolence also. Sometimes in corrupt boroughs in New York, the only thing that was there for social remedies for the people of the borough was the mafia helping the families. So, I mean, historically, we have labels being put on different factions in society. I mean, look at the Masons. You've got this historic, the evil of the Masons as you get up to the higher ranks, and then the service of the Masons on the streets, the Shriners, the same thing. I mean, my God, the beanie that the Shriners wear is a testament to Allah. They swear on the Bible. Once they reach a certain degree and they become a Shriner, they swear on the Quran. So they're using all of these different ideologies and ways of life to phase shift us into different allegiances with different ideologies, keeping us away from our human element. So, Duterte is addressing healthcare. He's addressing the legal system. He's addressing profitability as a Filipino. He's addressing long-term sustainability by creating a social welfare system that's based on contribution, like our Social Security system. But as they move away from that connection to the central banking system, look at the sovereignty of a patriated currency of the Philippines. All of a sudden, you've got the only country in the world that has not been totally raped of gold and minerals and all these different things. And they can grow. I mean, Del Monte's there, Dole is there, the banana plantations, the rice plant, all of these different potential bountiful harvest type things for the Philippines. Where is their natural self-sustainability and their global position as far as trade is concerned? I mean, I see the potential of the Philippines having the potential of Africa. If Africa was industrialized to become a farming nation, creating organic food, they could provide food for the world. In fact, that's the monarchy's plan for Africa. They wanted to control the world food supply based on the production of food and the nutrient soil of Africa. Then the GMO situation kicked in, and the GMOs failing. I mean, dealing with GMO in the Philippines in the 90s and the early 2000s, I was working with agricultural departments of colleges in different provinces, exposing the reality of GMOs. They have organic farms. That is their food of choice. They do not allow genetically modified anything, and there's a lot of things that they're very mature in as far as a nation, pure food production, the land rights. That's an issue that Duterte dealt with. The sovereign citizen owning land as a commoner. I mean, that was few and far between. They had to pay taxes for their land, rights to stay on their own land, and they were given land allotments in past administrations. He's bringing in the sovereign ownership of land, and he's starting to fight for the farmers, and he's doing so many things as a leader. I don't see how he does it, but he maintains, and he's got a cabinet that's bar none. And ironically, Manny Pacquiao is a shining senator over there. I mean, it's awesome what he's doing. Pacquiao will go fight and win the purse and come back and build 500 homes for the needy. They want to eradicate the squatters, which is
He's done that?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That is one of those kind stories that I haven't heard that I think people need to be aware of. That is a really honorable thing right there. That's awesome.
Well, think about this. Me and Dutch Sense were on top of this Typhoon Haiyan, okay, back in 2013, the Typhoon Yolanda. And I could see the anomalies from the NEXRAD radar heating up and cultivating this storm. And I was following some prophecies that were brought from India, ironically. A Christian from India came to the Philippines and told them that around the year 2012, 2013, there would be a black plague, and they needed to turn to God. And I had all these things I was working on, and I was seeing these anomalies in this formulation of this typhoon. And that's when the weather manipulation and HARP and all these things kicked in, and we actually caught it on radar and we could see where they were creating these storms, and the Filipino people had a lot of respect for me dealing with the alternative topics. I mean, how many people are going to believe that our government can create an earthquake in Haiti with
lost you.
array of antennas?
It's funny, John, because when we start getting into sensitive topics, I noticed yesterday I did an interview and with Jeffrey Daugherty he's got a YouTube channel. We're getting into some sensitive topics, of religion, and then disconnections were happening. And that's just what happened with you when you started talking about electronic/earthquake warfare. Who would believe it? All of a sudden, it's funny too. I just got to interject on that because you can read the actual white papers that the FBI director at the time, Ted Gunderson, was discussing on weather warfare, weather manipulation from 1997. And now you can go to Google even and various search engines, and there's dozens of patents that you can read about weather manipulation. Rhode Island just passed a law talking about weather manipulation combined with, or not a law, they're wanting to pass a bill, in Rhode Island, they're wanting to pass a bill where it talks about weather manipulation, chemtrails, et cetera, and the different things that can happen and what they use. What you just said right there, earthquakes. They are spraying radiation in the atmosphere, literally radiation. I saw the patents, barium, not just barium, but thorium and aluminum and nanoparticulates and frequency conjuncture with that, with these HARP-type technologies. They're blasting enormous amounts of electricity into the ionosphere in conjunction with these metal particulates. It's just like, how nasty are these guys going to get? So, so when you say people don't want to believe that kind of stuff, well, just offer them these opportunities to look at. But it's so unfortunate because even if they read them in their mind, once they'll be like, oh, no, that's not true. That's conspiracy. I know the patent's right there, but they're not doing it just because it's a patent. There's all sorts of patents.
Rex, look at this reality. I broke down monotheism because back in the 80s and 90s, I was practically a evangelical type preacher. I had a Messiah complex. But I always wondered why the teachings of Christ were not practiced in the church. I'd always get kicked out of churches. So when I left the church and I started really focusing on the history of monotheism, I dug deeper and deeper, and I got to the Amun-Ra, all men are Ra. I got to all of these names and demagogues and different religions. I started seeing the same Trinity, the same virgin birth, the common things me and you see every time we research these topics. But you go back to a time when that moon did not exist, when the earth living human would lay on the ground and look at the stars. Okay. This is the way I see it with chemtrails and CERN and all of their electromagnetic warfare against us. They're blocking the sun from us because if you go back to the ancient history of who we are as a soul being, as a star seed, every human is a star. Now you come through the focal point of this third dimensional construct, which is a hard fixed matrix of reality. We come together as the sun, as a soul consciousness. Okay. Now all life on the planet, on this experience called Earth, is the sun, from an ideology. Now we shine the rays through this firmament, this lens, we're in a petri dish, basically. We're going to transcend this trap, this soul trap, and they're trying to stop us from ascending. They're doing everything they can to try to transhumanize us, and I believe they're already starting to figure out they can't transhumanize us. So, as we come together as a soul collective in this experience called life on Earth, what's the most bountiful thing we can do but invest in our own morality and our own love and service to each other and our cohabitation on a Mother Earth that's our best friend, So, these everything that's happening is coming to a crescendo, and the consciousness of mankind, I believe, with this Filipino experience, I believe that people like me and you, with our vast knowledge and experience, I believe we can fine-tune our daily existence to actually teaching people that have questions, like a schoolhouse version of this old reality, considering what we can do to change it. I'm looking at a day where we will live when, the chemtrails will subside, and we'll all of a sudden realize that we don't really have this Nibiru type thing happening. We're not going to die. We're not, it's an energy level. If we are a negative life force and we're resonating at a low frequency in our gut, that painful life where we're actually carrying our cross and suffering to survive. We're going to have a great day one day, damn it. We'll be eternal life. We just got to kill a bunch of people. But if we start paying attention to the moment and we start realizing that we are missing so much as humans, living our life, dealing with all these topics, dealing with how in the hell are we going to, what are they going to do? I mean, are they going to start a war? I mean, what about right now? There's a dog barking outside. Wait, I can hear the birds. The elements, I feel the wind in my face. It's a wonderful life. Damn, that coffee tastes great, that Kona coffee. I'm having a bagel with cream cheese on it. This isn't a wonderful experience. Give me a strawberry. How much of life are we missing? The Filipino people have a lifestyle where they pay attention to everything they do. They have a reason for everything they do. And the outcome is where I want to invest my time. If they're making choices to grow their own food and pay attention to their sovereignty and reach back into their life experience because they've been indoctrinated. I mean, Ignatius Loyola, okay, the founder of the Jesuits. I mean, that Loyola University, that college system in the Philippines is awesome for indoctrinating people. That's the front line of people that are attacking Duterte daily, the liberals. So if we're making people live again with the passion of a child, and they're actually working to earn their food, and they're embracing having a self-sustainable home and a habitat that's more conducive to a peaceful, karma-driven life, that even the chi of their life, they can see the energy of their life elevating. They're happy. They have an effervescence. As you can tell by what I'm saying, I'm having the course of words that I'm trying to choose. I'm getting lost in the bliss of what I'm not doing with my life to make choices, because I involve every moment of my day watching the oligarchs and the biased media attack Duterte, and I'm trying to reach the Filipino people. I'm finding that if I'm going to try to teach people with words, I need to have deeds and actions, and my life needs to resonate my ideology and my what I'm saying, my testament, my life, because I'm being read by others. It's almost like all of these thousands of people and potentially millions of people that know my bald head and my mouth, once they see me rise above my own life circumstances and I start succeeding and I'm starting to live this serving others and loving my fellow man and learning not to judge others and forgiving people and serving. Once I start doing this and I start bringing alternatives to people, once I start actually investing my life path into becoming what I prognosticate with my mouth, then we'll start seeing some people participate and actually become accountable and start holding people like Trump accountable. Because what's happening in the Philippines right now is all of his opposition is slowly migrating towards him, because they're realizing being anti-Filipino is not investing in their country or their own life. They're becoming pro-Filipino, and they're seeing that the fruit of Duterte's labor is actually investing in the Philippines to be Filipino. So, everything else is just topics and talking points and realities that are they going to, is chemtrails going to, I don't think they're going to transhumanize us. I think they're failing. I think CERN failed. I think they can't resurrect this skull of Osiris or whoever the hell that is. I mean, what spirituality manifested in our face, Rex? Did me and you see Jesus walking? I mean, did we see the face of God? I mean, did we experience life after death and we chose to come back? No, I believe that all of these trumped up spiritual ideologies are being exposed for what they really are. just a device to keep people from being the ultimate accountable, loving, producing human that could be. So it's about choices and modalities. You know, what can we do? Organic food, you know, alternative powers. I mean, how many people have you interviewed over the past few years that provide these ways and these avenues? Can you imagine if me and you and a few other broadcasters online could actually start empowering people to participate with these things? You know, can we see the Philippines and eventually the US and other countries? And I mean, look at Syria. Syria just wants to be Syria. The Muslims and the Christians publicly stated on a testimony given by UN peacekeepers, a 45-minute video that I have on my YouTube channel, where the UN peacekeepers went to Syria and they found out that, you know, the people in Syria will tell you these are paid mercenaries. They know who ISIS is. And Assad is actually trying to keep the central bank out of his country. He's trying to have his own self-sustainability, his own independence, and not be beholden to these radical forms of Islam or whatever. You know, he just wants to be Syria. I mean, the women in Syria are some of the most beautiful women in the world. They could drive, they had businesses, and I mean, they didn't have to sit in the back seat and wear a dirk on their face, you know. I mean, what are we doing as humans? We got to start living again, you know.
That makes right. We do need to live again and be humane. And the system that has these controllers, whatever they are, whoever they are, wherever they are, literally at the top levels that pull the strings of the politicians that we see and the militaries, and that design these blueprints that change the world scale for their benefit. And maybe the little scraps will go to some other industries that work in conjunction with them, off of the backs and labors of people's souls, literally. And like you said about the minerals and why there are wars, well, it goes even beyond that to a metaphysical level, to a spiritual level, a blood level. And even if people don't believe that, it doesn't matter if you believe it or not, folks. They do. Those that do these things are doing stuff behind the scenes that you don't even know about, that you don't want to know about.
I mean,
so
the spellbinding.
Go ahead.
The English language has hard fixed the alchemy of the research of alchemy and the frequencies and the metabolic signatures of the frequencies resonating in our bodies, and what it does to our chakra and what it does to our life force. These Kabbalists, these Luciferians, whatever you want to call them, these anti-human type people.
Yeah, anti-human people. That's a good one.
They have worked on a nano level to micromanage our life, to not be the effervescence of what we could be. So, you know, Rex, you know what comes to mind right now? You know that Switchfoot song, "We were meant to be so much more, but we lost ourselves." When are we going to wake up and realize that, you know, we've been fumbling with life and not really doing anything, not really saying, "Ta-da, look what I did." You know, you go to that landmark with the rocks and everything that guy in Florida built, you know, that natural wonder where he has a 15,000-pound door that opens with, you just push it with your finger.
Yeah, the Coral Castle.
Coral Castle. Look, and then you look at he used block and tackle to make all that stuff happen. You know, he wasn't out there holding two little cones and saying, "Ooh," levitating rocks. It was blood, sweat, and tears that did it. But he did it. What can we do? What could you do in one of them bunkers, man? Can you imagine all them bunkers full of people that just want to live and plant gardens and have a, you know, hey, we're gonna roast some. Let's just watch the stars. You know, your dog's at my house again. I mean, what are we gonna do? What is our next choice? And we have so much available to us to create an action-based reality where we're not going to be such a target to the deep state. Can you imagine if me and you and other people that have influence over followers, if we started actually empowering them to be entrepreneurs and participating with the solutions that are available? That's one of my goals, but I'm still working on a call to action with all my followers. You know, it seems like every day I grow, I make a choice to stop being anti-John, and I just say, just face it, you've been running your mouth cursing and talking shit. The minute I start loving my followers and I start changing my words and my testimony, and I wise up a little bit, I mature a lot, man. I just wake up the next day I feel like I'm standing on the ground again, you know? So, Rex, I'm going to work on this statement the president of the Philippines made, and I'm going to get back with you an email. And I feel that people like me and you could probably talk for weeks at a time, but where do we go from talking to action, man? And I mean, you made a big step going out to that bunker, and I could see something happening with that. That's awesome. That's an awesome choice for someone that really wants to get it and, you know, have some good energy and be away from the EMF and all that stuff. And, you know, but.
Well, I appreciate that, John. I really do. And when I was out there, it was amazing because when I did that chant where I was just saying, "Hugh," in the concrete bunker there, it was bouncing back, echo, and it literally made the hair stand up on my body all over the place. And then I would just think about it the next few days, and every time I would think about it, the hair would start to stand up again. It was just this amazing feeling and sensation and vibration, and sound is vibration. And you brought up the coral crystal, what Ed did, and he was moving these giant stones with what I think is some type of frequency sound manipulation. And I think that's how the pyramids were made, the great pyramids of Giza, and ones that are discovered off the coast of Japan underwater that are 12,000 years old, like also the ones in Croatia. And I think that what you're talking about, if you're either just an amazing salesperson and hey, this just sounds great, or, you know, what I feel is different is I feel you're legit, and I feel that you're genuine, and you believe what you say, and I respect that. And as I tell people, you know, as I've told you even off the air, I respect somebody a lot more that is passionate about their beliefs, even if I don't agree with them, than somebody that is lying or manipulating, attempting to create a false paradigm to get people to follow the wrong path, like a wolf in sheep's clothing. I have no problems with wolves. Wolves are fine. There needs to be wolves. If everybody was a sheep, well, there'd be a lot of sheep shit all over the place. I mean, there has to be some balance there. But a wolf in sheep's clothing, that is what I say you need to watch out for, is the wolves in sheep's clothing. And there's so many of them out there. And it really has been an honor to speak with you. I hope we can do this again. I'd love to have you back on the show. But what I would also like to do before we close out is so people know how to get a hold of you and listen to your shows. You said you've got a YouTube channel and 17,000 plus followers on Facebook. How do people get in contact and follow your work, please?
Well, I mean, they can go to my website. It's the letter U dash 6, the number 6 dot mobi, MOBI, or social-live.biz. You know, be socially alive, make it your business, or unite humanity one person at a time. I've tried to keep even the vanity of what I do to represent something, you know. So on Facebook, I'm just John Arsenault. I'm sure you can provide a link on the video, and I'd like the permission to download the video and upload it to my channel and hopefully my Facebook. I was banned from doing live on Facebook yesterday. I did an hour-long live exposing the plans, the suspicions of the U.S. State Department, in other words, the deep state remnant that's still in Washington, trying to overthrow the Duterte. And it went viral. I had like 200 or 300 viewers, and when I cut the live, I had a copyright strike. They said I had a Pink Floyd clip, 45 seconds long, and what it was, I played the video of the fake moon landings and stuff, and the audio with no latency, with no delay during the 1969 landing of on the moon, and I guess maybe one of the Pink Floyd albums has that audio in it or something, but Facebook blocked me from being live. And, you know, we're at such an awesome time right now. Facebook and these oligarchs and these deep state agencies, I believe me and you are going to see them serving us, because how in the hell can they stop their business and their employment and all these corporations? If we're starting to produce results and we become entrepreneurial and we start to repossess our own values, it's going to have a monetary value. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, I've got a website, but I'm just here every day. I can be reached. I make myself public. My phone number is public. My address, everything is public. So I thank you for your time, man. I really look forward to seeing if we could help some people make their lives better,
Right on. That's what it's all about, helping people out, making people's lives better. Thank you so much. It was an honor to speak with you. Definitely appreciate you coming on the show, John. Ladies and gentlemen, check out leakproject.com also. We have exclusive content on leakproject.com available for premium members. And as well, if you're interested in those bunkers that were discussed here and there in this podcast, check out the terravivos.com. You can actually see a map of the area. You can see what these bunkers look like. You can see in conjunction to, it's about half an hour away from the Black Hills. So it's a really cool area, but it's also so far off of the grid as far as not being close to any nuclear reactors or being close to large cities, to where if it gets to a point where things go bad fast, or if you just want to be off the grid in a situation to where eventually maybe you could have your own self-sustaining farm, and if you wanted to turn it into like a really nice concrete studio, essentially, make it really neat inside, you can do that too, because they're open shells. It's an open canvas to do what you want. And check it out, terravivos.com. Thank you for being here with us, ladies and gentlemen. Question everything and be the change you want to see.
And just modernize the island and do the typical indigenous takeover with the imperial rule. And by them advocating their own independence, they stood, and rule of law based on human rights gave them their own island. But then in the meantime, we helped them to maintain their independence to a point where now the tribe is unified, and their main crop is coconuts, and they didn't want to create a tourist resort. And it was just a small milestone in my life. It let me really see what the geopolitical scene looked like. And I realized that most NGOs were nothing but sitting at the table of the oligarchs and the UN. And, from that point until now, I've been basically focused on the Philippines, because they have 10 million offshore workers, which is a form of human trafficking. There's disparity between the upper class and the lower class. Imperial Manila was a product of the U.S. Filipino invasion. The Philippines was basically, for the last 100 years, a strategic point for the U.S. And the U.S. killed, a couple of million Filipinos when they took over the island. So my city, we have parishes here in Louisiana. So our city was the first city to prosecute a pedophile priest by the name of Father Gilbert Gauthier in 1983. And I was involved in that case. And, our city, ironically, our flag for our area, our region, is the Acadiana region. Now that goes back to the Acadians, okay? Acacia correct, it goes way back. So General Lafayette, Napoleon, the Louisiana Purchase was spearheaded from my area. So our area is pretty much the proxy and the female Illuminati coven for the deep state. And, our flag is the same flag of the Philippines. The symbology of the Philippines flag shows their imperial seal and beholding nature to the United States. And the flag of our area has the Three Crown Corporation symbology on it. So, our city is the highest number per capita for certified public accountants for the drilling industry, the Carlyle Group. So the petrodollar is very strong. We're the Kuwait of the United States. So I find myself involved in this political campaign. I was following this man, Duterte, as the mayor of Davao for 20 years. And, I've been off and on a novice in broadcasting, alternative broadcasting. And I've always had
you sound advanced right now.
Well, I've always had a shit stirring pot mentality because I'm an agitator.
I like that.
I get down to the basics, all of these talking heads that are.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we have John Arsenault with us. Now, John reached out to me 1 or 2 days ago. I think it was yesterday, immediately after I did a podcast about what the mainstream media was pushing in context that the president of the Philippines said. And obviously the media, especially the mainstream, is extremely good at manipulating the status quo and getting their own agendas pushed. Yet what was said, I don't agree with, and I didn't at the time, but I didn't really get an opportunity to do more research than just what the mainstream media said. And now we've got somebody that's going to express a different side of that statement that was made and the context. And hey, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, John. I want to give everybody an open platform. And seriously, when you get those kind of accusations, especially, you need to have both sides of the story. So appreciate you coming on. How the heck are you?
Well, Rex, I'm doing fine. My name is John Arsenault. I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana, and we're in the Gulf Coast area. I've had about 22 years of following President Duterte. I have a background in technology, systems integrator, inventor. I was involved in call center technologies in the Philippines way long ago, and I've been, as a philanthropist, when I was involved in corporate America, I would assist in human rights projects, and not the government NGO type human rights agencies which do nothing to help humans, but advocating rights like the Coconut Rebellion for the Bougainvillean Republic. I was digitally using fax machines and fighting for these people to maintain their independence and not be taken over.
I don't think most of us have heard of that. Sorry to interrupt, but what is that?
Well,
ignorant? I'm ignorant to that. I've never heard of it.
It was known as the Kingdom of Pau Pau. It used to exist north of New Zealand, and now the maps have changed, the land masses have changed. But it was an African island separated by Protestant Christians and Catholic Christians, and they were warring against each other, and they had a self-proclaimed king that was going around the world raising money and stealing the money. He was just jet setting, a member of the UN, typical scamster, and friends of mine in Australia and me and some other people from the UK, we went to bat for these people, and we proved by advocating their independence, they were being taken over by the Brits, and they were trying to make them subdue. The Philippines in the 40s occupied Manila and certain regions around Manila, Quezon City, different areas, and then the U.S. was there as an Army Corps of Engineers trying to rebuild the infrastructure from the damage they created. They were working with the Red Cross and watching the theater of war in the occupied Philippines by Japan, which was the bad guy, funded by the oligarchs, of course. So at the last minute, they staged a ceasefire and that the Japanese would leave the occupied area. And at the last minute, half of the city was destroyed. Oh my God. Okay, they had 4,000 prisoners of war, American servicemen, encamped in this area of Manila. So what the Western media did, as you remember the war stories, our troops are going through and seeking the enemy. They're hiding in holes and trenches. They would always stylize documentary version information that would basically make the people of America and the UK think, man, we're doing a good job in this war. We're helping people, these poor Filipinos. Well, here we are. The American troops come in. This cavalry comes in and saves the day. And there you are. They develop psychologically a Western mindset, beholding to the American troops, We have Clark Air Force Base there. We have many different naval installations there. And all of a sudden, 2016, here comes President Duterte. Overwhelmingly elected by the people. I was part of the campaign. Facebook has 6 million Duterte supporters occupying Facebook, always following, promoting, supporting the president. Well, he's representing the people. He's not representing the foreign interests that used to have a strong chokehold on the Philippines. So the truth comes out to the people slowly, and now we're many different cases. We have like the term extrajudicial killing, the 6,000, 7,000 victims, okay? You have all of these human rights councils, the International Criminal Court, all of these bleeding hearts that come out and say he's killing people and his war on drugs. Well, guess what? The previous administration, the Aquino administration, was beholden to the oligarchs and narco-political drug trafficking and stealing from their own people, land grabbing. You got 7,000 islands involved here. So here's Duterte instituting rule of law. And by the way, he's a successful prosecuting attorney, all right? And he's known for just dealing with the problem himself. So he's being accused, and about a year ago, I went viral. I did a Facebook Live that was a recorded video that was Duterte, a man of no bullshit. And I explained the cause and effect of a leader like Duterte institute selling books, you know, all these ego-driven kites that are flying around trying to get attention. You know, I always bring people back to that Hegelian dialectic. When are we going to start advocating connecting the human to the human experience, you know, so we can all just reason together and not be so damn beholden to these systems that keep us under control? Well, this man, Duterte, became the mayor of a city that was the 4th most dangerous city in the world. And then over 20 years, he established the city to be the safest city, number 4 ranked in the world. And he's a tribal type, gut-driven person. He curses. He has passion for life. He called Obama basically a SOB. He called the Pope an SOB. And he told, as a public declaration, he said his country will not be beholden to the oligarchy or imperialism. So he's fashioning the archipelagos known as the Philippines into a federalist state, because his desire is to give all of the tribal regions their own independence. So the Philippines in the near future will become many different countries like the African continent. And ironically enough, most people in Western culture think Africa is a country. So, you know, we're dealing with knowledge, we're dealing with biased media, we're dealing with a central bank located in a country called the Philippines, and narco-political issues going into the church, the murder of Ferdinand Marcos, which is, you know, he established rule of law under martial law in 1972, and he was killed in 1986 by an uprising that was fashioned by the Communist Party and the Liberal Party. So, you know, the footprint of the U.S. and you know, over the years, I'll tell you how the U.S. has meddled in the lives of Filipinos. They took over the country 100 years ago. Okay, they created Imperial Manila, the Christian example in Asia for Western culture. All right.
Killing people in the disguise of Christianity.
There you go. There you go. So here we are. We've got a whole country that was sovereign unto itself with no Godhead, no monotheism, whatever. A very rich culture dealing with metaphysics and unity consciousness based on life itself. These people could sew clothes out of gold. Okay, their talent and their friendship and their resources they're part of the global trade when the Silk Road existed back when. So anyway, we have the takeover of the Philippines 100 years ago. And then, you know, like in the 1940s, the U.S. could not industrialize the Philippines because the Philippines was seeking its own independence. So what they did, they staged an invasion from Japan. Japan came into the rule of law. His PNP, the Filipino National Police, if they were ever involved in past administrations with a narco bust, drug bust, or apprehending the mafia or something like that, if they were involved in an altercation, many times statistically, the police would not even have defense in court. They'd lose their pensions. Sometimes they would be prosecuted because the narco-political infrastructure, which was undergirded and funded by the CIA, there was no support for the law enforcement. So the law enforcement was even corrupt. So here's Duterte cleaning house, establishing rule of law, standards and procedures, and a byproduct of his police going out and seeking this list of drug pushers and manufacturers of methamphetamine. They call it shamu. It became nasty because his police, he told them, look, you go out, if your life is in danger, you shoot to kill. If they have a gun pointed at you, I'm going to stand behind you. I will prosecute and I will defend you, my policeman. So extrajudicial killing was very construed as an evil act by the hands and dictate of this stylized dictator fashioned by Western media. The cause and effect of him instituting rule of law was, okay, well, his police were being fired upon and they were defending themselves. So there's a lot of people dying. But guess what? The drug problem was started to become eradicated. They had over 600,000 drug addicts surrender when he walked into office. They were looking for help. He provided rehabilitation programs. A foreign investor from China built a state-of-the-art rehab facility in record time, in less than 3 months, like a 3,000-bed facility. And Duterte started to do business with China, Russia, and the ASEAN nations, Peru, even Iran. The North Korean dictator, the bad guy, that puppet that they try to make look so bad. He even basically publicly said, Mr. Duterte, I'm proud of you for standing against the central bank. Because, if you realize how many countries have been affected by the oligarchy, by the monarchy, by the church, by all of these land grabs and regime changes, this guy Duterte, a real man, a father, a mayor, a prosecuting attorney, he's just an honorable man. He says, I don't need this job. I'm doing it because I can. And you elected me, so let's change this country. He wants to protect the children, and he wants to guarantee the people of the Philippines that the next generation will not be infested with oligarchy. Now, the term oligarchy is covering Illuminati, cabal, central bankers, the West, the monarchy, any foreign invasion in a sovereign country to control that country's people.